the nature of the innovation, any innovation is usually iterative, especially when there is a transfer from the innovator to the second innovator or to a community. Now we are talking about a grassroots innovation here, Nutricure, which you would have seen in the previous video. Now you see, one of the problems was that it was necessary to cut a hole so that these bottles with coconut coir and soil could be kept inside. So what was the first problem when you first started?
So we first started making the holes with a box knife and a handsaw, and we found that during this process it was quite hard to get exact cuts, and ultimately mess was going everywhere.
So you see, if you cut with a handsaw, you get a straight thing like this, or maybe like this, but you needed something like this, right?
Yeah.
So what happened? Just play it in tandem.
Yeah, so we figured instantly it was way too hard to cut the holes, taking way too much time, especially if you wanted to make them at the scale that we intended. So we came up with a quick innovation to enable faster manufacturing and more accurate manufacturing in an easy way. So we looked at the materials we had at hand. We had coat hangers and we had cable from the fence. So we did a few sketches and then came up with this tool.
There's no such tool like this in the world. This is one of its kind.
And it specifically solves this problem. So essentially we've shaped the metal so that it follows the contour of the bottle. So what happens is when you heat it up in a fire, we made a fire there which uses wood and palm leaf and coconut husk. You heat it up in a fire, and then what you do is, all you need to do is just push it down into the foam and then rotate 180 degrees and pull out, and then you have a perfect profile in a way cleaner method because it cauterizes the foam so that particles don't go everywhere.
Now, the fascinating thing about innovation is how the idea comes. So how on earth did you get this idea?
Well, we had the vision of making a lot of these systems, and like Chris had mentioned, we needed a way that was faster, more efficient, and more foolproof, less room for error during manufacturing, because it's not just going to be us who's making these in the future.
So you just saw this and you thought of making a fire and doing this?
Yeah, I mean, initially, the initial idea was just making a big, heavy, hot chunk of metal that followed the profile of the bottle and then sticking it in. But with the resources we had at hand in Kameswaram, that wasn't possible. We didn't have a machine shop. We didn't have the specific type of metal. So we had to look at the materials that we had at hand, and we found these.
Which you can just make with the pliers as long as you have the wire.
Yeah.
And you can make the handle, but because we're putting this in heat, you need some insulation for when you're making the holes. So all you need is some newspaper and some tape.
So let's give a hand to these young innovators who have made this and taught this to the villagers, and let's see. Here's to more spinach and to more innovations. Thank you.
Thank you.
So this I found.